All right, Ketsui. 1cc, of course. First and foremost, let me just say, absolutely brilliant game. Absolutely beautifully crafted masterpiece of a game. It is top tier. It is, I mean, first and foremost, just the sound, just at this menu, just at this menu music, the soundtrack, but throughout the whole game. Soundtrack is absolutely on point. Let's just get that out of the way. Is it as good as Ikaruga's soundtrack? Maybe not. Ikaruga's soundtrack is absolutely god tier, but it's a very different style of soundtrack, so a little bit hard to compare. But then coming into just the level design of this game. Now, how am I judging level design? You know, how good a level is basically just from me practicing that level, learning the level, and then if it's a really good level, I naturally I want to just like keep, it's addicting just to keep practicing it and improving at it. That's the marker of a beautifully designed level. It makes you just want to addictively just keep practicing it over and over again, and it feels when you start to learn it, when you've got a strategy down for it, it feels really satisfying to play, and just really smooth and satisfying to chain through the level. And that is my general basic test of whether a level is good or not. And the level design in this game is on point. And just from stage one here, not to mention the bullet patterns in this game are very interesting as well. Just from stage one here, you can also immediately tell. You can probably tell just from stage one, this is going to be on the harder end. And generally speaking, there seems to be a bit of a general consensus that this is one of the hardest first loops in any cave game, up there with Side-Eye Ojo and also Dangun Feveron. I've heard those three thrown around. Ketsui, Side-Eye Ojo, Dangun Feveron. Those generally seem to be regarded as the hardest first loops. And just from this stage one, you know, it's stage one, it's not too hard, but it's throwing a bit more at you you'd normally expect. So make a bit of a mistake there. I accidentally left that big plane alive, but I go around and take it out. But yeah, it's just throwing a bit more at you. It's a bit more intense than usual just on stage one, so you immediately get a sense. Now, the bullet patterns in this game, and we'll see more as we get to the later bosses and later stages, but very interesting bullet patterns. The previous game that came out before this one was Diojo, and that one maybe generally has some interesting patterns as well, but generally took it a bit more traditional. Clearly, explicitly with this game, a little bit of an interesting pattern here, kind of these almost like raindrops falling down those red bullets there. But yeah, this game, I don't really know how to describe it. Maybe experimental is the word. They did a lot of very experimental, interesting bullet patterns, but it was certainly a successful experiment. Makes it really cool and interesting, and also just visually, it makes it. That's one of the big strengths of these games, just from a visual perspective, is like making these kind of mesmerizing patterns that are kind of a visual spectacle. We'll definitely see some of that later. But yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful game. It really is. It really is brilliant. I really enjoyed all my time with this one. Now, I was thinking, so firstly, I guess I'll also say a bit about, you know, how long did it take me? What was my process like? I'm the type of guy who likes to practice in a fairly efficient manner. So we could say that. I like to use save states and any other tools. Generally, save states is the main thing, but that and any other tools at my disposal to be able to practice and improve efficiently, I like to do that. I also will happily refer to other people's runs. I will to, you know, take a look at their strategies and whatnot. Pan, of course, and his guides. He has a lot of guides for most of these games, including this one. Very useful. So I'll be taking these strategies, I'll be using the save states, and I try to practice and improve quite efficiently. But another thing I do is, if you think about, let's say you're going for the 1cc, let's say you're practicing and improving, at some point you'll hit kind of a theoretical lower bound, you could say, where it's like, okay, I've now hit the point where theoretically I could get the 1cc, but it's still kind of a bit above my skill level. So even though I've hit the lower bound, but it's still kind of above my skill level, so it would need a very good run. It would need a kind of a standout run or a lucky run. I will generally take it beyond that. I will practice until I feel like my skill level is a bit above, you know, what's kind of strict, at least a bit above what is kind of strictly necessary for the 1cc. Therefore, when I actually go for my runs, I don't need to like sit there and grind out attempts until I get a really lucky run or something like that. So I practiced quite a bit. I believe my playtime on the game was about 100 hours on my, that's what it said on my PlayStation account by the time I got this 1cc. And definitely just practiced until I felt like I was a bit above the level, if you see what I mean. Then I sat down. Oh yeah, I used one bomb here just because that pattern's tricky. It's like, you know what, just use the bomb. Although I usually can avoid it if I'm trying to, but there we go. Take out that boss. Still no deaths at this point. But yeah, so what was I saying? Yeah, so I like to just practice until I'm a bit above the skill level. And when I felt like I was around that level, I sat down, I started doing some run attempts. And I very quickly had 2 very good runs into stage 5 that both died in stage 5. After that, I sat down for another day, looked over my mistakes, looked over the areas where I was a bit more flaky or liable to mess up. I love a bit of a mistake there, leaving that guy alive. But yeah, I recover. But yeah, you know, I spent another day just patching up the obvious areas where I was messing up. And then I sat down the next day, did one attempt, and I immediately got it. So this was just literally my first attempt of the day. After I just spent like the previous day and whatnot practicing and patching up the areas where I wasn't so good, and maybe a bit of strategizing as well about when to use my bombs and whatnot. And then that's a big element as well, and I'll talk a bit more about that later. But yeah, I was able to get it. And this stage 3 actually has been a bit sloppy, but I've been keeping it together and just recovering when it's been going a bit off. Now I was also thinking, so 100, let's say it took me 100 hours. Maybe it's a bit of an overestimate. You know, some of those hours would have been AFK. Some of those hours would have been me just kind of messing around and not really playing properly. But let's just say 100 hours, you know. On the one hand, that's a long time, right? That could be viewed as a long time. Maybe a lot of casual gamers would, although a casual gamer would still happily spend 100 hours on like a, you know, some big RPG game or something like that, most likely. But, you know, for this game being like a 20-minute game, some people might say, well, 100 hours is a lot of hours. But this game, you know, it's kind of there's a term I've been using recently, which is skill-like. You know, people like to talk about Souls-like games and stuff like that. Well, this is a type of game, these shmups, these bullet hell games and whatnot, and a lot of arcade games in general, they've fit into a genre that I'm going to dub as skill-like games. And on this type of game, where it's like a skill, it's like playing the piano or something like that. Well, if you played the piano for 100 hours, you'd still be considered a beginner, really, right? If you played the guitar, if you played the piano for 50 to 100 hours, you'd still probably be generally be considered a beginner. And that's the interesting thing. Even if after you get the 1cc, as I've now done in this, I am still a beginner. Some people might view that as kind of the end result or the end goal. But in reality, we know that the games can be taken far further. In this game particularly, the next step, you can do the emote loop, then you can do the aura loop. I mean, just the emote loop. I was listening to an interview with one of the former world record holders. I believe he said it took him, you know, 300 hours or so just to enter the emote loop, not even to beat it. So you go up, it kind of ladders you up in an interesting way. I think there's an interesting balance. By the way, this stage 3 boss, really cool boss. Really, you see it here, all the interesting bullet patterns. I'm doing it very, very nicely here. Didn't have to use a bomb or anything. This final pattern, you just have to move up a bit from the bottom of the screen and then follow along the middle stream of blue bullets there, and I nicely take out that boss. And I have no deaths up until this point, so that's very good. Things start ramping up in stage 4, but they really ramp up in stage 5. That's where it really ramps up. But yeah, as I was saying, you know, there's an interesting balance, I think a good balance, of how long it takes you to get a 1cc in these games. You know, to get the 1cc, you need to practice the whole game. You need to be familiar with the whole game. You need to have some of a strategy for the whole game. But, you know, there's pretty ample room, leeway for mistakes as well in terms of lives and bombs. You know, there's pretty ample leeway for mistakes. So, you know, and let's say it takes you 50 to 100 hours. It's pretty, I think that's a good balance. But of course, on the grand scheme of things, you can, even though some might view that as the end goal, in reality, depends relatively how you're looking at it. But, you know, compared to the world record holder, who I believe right now is SPS, a Japanese player, well, you're still a beginner, right? And if you, as I say, if you play the piano for 100 hours, you're still a beginner. The next step up, let's say you go to the Emote loop. Let's say it might take you 500 hours to beat that. Then you go for the Aura loop. Might take you 1,000 hours, 2,000 hours to beat that, I imagine. So there's really a long way you could go. Now here for this mini boss, I do this nicely. And I'm thinking, you know what? I haven't had any deaths yet. I've got 3 bombs. I can afford to be liberal with my bombs, which is something you want to do. Like you want to, so right here, nice bomb there, nicely timed bomb right there. So you want to make use of your bombs. Like that's another thing. My previous runs had died partially because of just bad use of bombs or not using my bombs and dying. I used 3 bombs there. Now that was a bit over the top. That last bomb especially, I definitely didn't need. But, you know, I couldn't see his health bar because I was focused on my character. You know, my character's at the bottom of the screen. His health bar is at the top of the screen. So I couldn't really tell. So I just used all my bombs and was like, you know what? Whatever. Better to use them. And it works out. And we'll see more good use of bombs later in this run. This is a cool section here. These enemies, very interested in like weird delayed red shots here as the screen scrolls to the left, which is also weird. Unusual how the screen scrolls horizontally there, but I do this whole part very nicely. The whole of stage 4 goes very well for me here. Coming up to this next bit, so this guy, this enemy, I leave him alive because otherwise it spawns more waves and it's just easier to leave him alive and not have it spawn the extra waves. Then this big enemy comes in, I follow it over to the right until about here, then I follow it to the left. And then right as I kill it, and then I immediately hit the far left of the screen. I want to be on the far left of the screen, then stream it all the way to the right. Then this next big one comes in. I delay a bit before I lock on. I come all the way to the left, and then I slowly stream all the way to the right. That's how I do that part consistent. And it goes very well for me there. And now we're coming into stage 4 boss with no deaths, which is very good. This might have been the first time. I think my overruns that got this far had 1 death by this point. Now this first pattern, fairly easy. This first pattern right here, pretty simple. The second pattern, absolute killer. This is a crazy pattern. This is really hard. You have to like keep, you know, there's all these shots fire at you from all these different directions. You have to almost like keep it in your peripheral vision, everything. Luckily get through it without bombing. I do, but then I have to bomb there instead. So, but yeah, that pattern that I was talking about, very hard to kind of keep what's going on in your head and in your peripheral vision, everything that's going on. But now this pattern, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm just kind of playing naturally here, not too nervous, because I'm kind of happy to take a death at this point, because I've getting this far without dying is very good. If I take a death, my bombs are back stocked up, so I'm kind of carefree playing the rest of this boss, happy to just die at any point and get restocked, so I know I'm going to be in a good spot. But this is another really cool like visual pattern. It's almost kind of 3D. It almost has like a 3D like optical illusion to it in how those bullets are moving. Then this is the final pattern. You kind of swing around 360 degrees around, but you can't just go really fast. You have to tactically kind of stop and tap at times to not get too far ahead and not just go head first into some of those blue bullets. But I have a good sense of it. I get it down nicely there, and no deaths, still no deaths coming into the final stage, which is a crazy, ridiculous stage. Is this final stage? This final stage is relentless. It's long as well. It's the longest stage, and it's constantly throwing stuff at you. This first part isn't too bad. This first part's actually fairly easy. Everything I'm doing right here, but then as soon as I clear these, so right now from this point onwards, it's brutal. This big enemy comes out, and I mess up here because I totally just did kind of, yeah. So I was practicing different strats for this guy, So in my head, I was confused. I wasn't really sure which strat I was trying to do because I was confused from the multiple different strats I was trying earlier. And I get into a sticky situation, die. I almost avoided it still, but I take a deserved death there. In any case, now I recover well, get back into position. This next part, not too bad. But yeah, I was thinking to myself, it's been in the back of my head, do I ever want to go for, the emote loop, the aura loop, and another sticky situation there, but I used the bomb. Another nicely timed bomb. So, I mean, that's an interesting thing as well about the bombs. I mean, a bomb, on the one hand, is a mistake. Like, it's kind of inherently a mistake on the one hand, because a perfect run or an aura loop run doesn't use any bombs. At least getting into the aura loop requires no bombs. However, on the other hand, it's actually very satisfying to have like a nicely timed bomb, that's at a perfect opportune moment, and then you're able to get right back into position from it, is very satisfying in and of itself. And getting that down and the bomb sense, as it's called, having like an intuitive sense of when's a good time to use a bomb and when isn't, based on the amount of resources you have and stuff like that. Developing that sense is a very important part of playing these games. Now here I do 1, 2, and this third one I release the shot there so I get more speed. This boss is tricky. I was dying on this boss in my previous attempts, so I patched this. I had to like patch this up, my strategy for this boss, and come back and practice it. But it goes very well for me here. So again, this pattern again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then around here I'm just going to release the shot, not shooting it at all, so I get full speed to move around and evade all that. Now normally I practice everything so I at least theoretically could do everything without bombing. This pattern here was the main exception to that, or one exception to that. I just planned to use a bomb there, so I used the bomb there, take him out. Now an absolute massive swarm, endless swarm of these, kamikaze planes start coming at you. Despite holding shot for so long, a few still survive and kill me there. So that messes me up. But, I respawn with bombs. I use a bomb. Another nice bomb there. Get myself into position to take out these guys who come out into the middle. So, worked out. That's a difficult section to do without a bomb. That's a very, very difficult section. Now right here, accidentally leave 2 guys alive there. I just bomb it. I maybe could have saved that without the bomb, but it's like, just bomb it. Now we come down to this infamous section, this infamous elevator down. But I do this very nicely, use the bomb there, another perfect moment. Then the big guy comes in from the right. What I do is I hold shot until I hit the left, then I lock onto him. So I don't lock onto this guy immediately. I wait until I hit the left side of the screen, and so I can take him out right there. That just delays killing him a bit, because otherwise there's an extra wave of annoying enemies that spawn. So it's better if you can just do that and avoid those enemies from spawning by delaying the kill. Now this part, killing all these guys at the bottom before they have the chance to shoot, very, very fun, satisfying. This is one of my favorite sections. Come up to the top left, take out 1, 2, 3, and just take out 4 as the screen is totally swamped. Find a little way to cut through here and kill the last 2. Goes very nicely for me there. The tigers come in here. These tiger ships come in. This is just, I'm pretty sure you just have to purely react to this. There's no real, pattern to this other than just reacting there. Big swarm comes in again. Almost should have died there, but I just managed to cut in. I go to the bottom left there to be on a diagonal, because those shots spread out more as they go to that diagonal corner there, so you have more of a gap. Get hit there. That shot that he just caught me with is a very tricky one to avoid. I just get caught by that. Now the Panzer swoop in. This is another like infamous section. I'm also planning to use a bomb here. I'm not planning to try to do this in no bombs. Use a bomb there, nice timing as I swoop over and kill the last Panzer. So another nicely placed bomb there. So again, the bombs that I did use throughout this last level have been very nicely timed, very opportune moments. I've gotten right into good position after using them. And now we're in the final boss, and I've got 3 lives left. So, I mean, this is easy mode. I'm not worried at all, because 3 lives is plenty for this. I can base just resource bomb spam my way through it. So, just use the bomb there. Just liberal with the bombs here. Might as well just secure the win. So, yeah, I mean, what a run. Didn't really have to pay too much attention to this. I'm still kind of trying to, evade a bit here. Not just spamming the bombs as liberally as I could have, I guess. But this was pretty much it. I knew I had it in the bag at this point. I mean, you can never get too cocky. You never really want to get too cocky until it really is done. That's one thing I've kind of learned. But at the same time, but in this case, it was so like 3 lives coming in here is very good. So this last pattern, he comes into the last pattern in a moment here, and I tried to, as we come to this last pattern, I tried to kind of show off a bit. I tried to show off a bit and survive this final pattern without bombing. And I almost do, but now I just get caught there. So unfortunate, I couldn't quite show off like I wanted to there, but there we go, he's done. Great run, really fun, absolutely brilliant game, like I've said. But yeah, I mean, as I come to the conclusion and finish the game, I do think to myself, and the same goes for the other games that I've gotten a 1cc on. This is my third 1cc. I've previously done Diojo and Ikaruga. And for all these games, we get this credit sequence, and it's a bit bittersweet because you've achieved what you set out to achieve. But at the same time, it's like, I don't really want it to be the end for this game, right? I really like this game. It's really fun. I don't necessarily want to say like, oh, that's it, I'm done with this game because I've got the 1cc now. But then the next steps up on the ladder, such as the emote loop, the aura loop and all that. Well, those next steps, those are big steps to take. Those are big time commitments. Psychologically, those are big commitments. I have thought to myself, do I ever want to go for them? Maybe, but it's not on my purview right now. I think for now I'm happy just kind of bouncing around between games, going for 1cc's. I talked a bit earlier about how I think these games are pretty well balanced in how much they expect out of you for the initial 1cc, but 50, 100 hours playing the piano, the analogy I made earlier, you're still a beginner. 1,000, 2,000 hours, which is probably how long it would take for, say, the aura loop. Now if you were to put that in, say, piano terms, so if you spent 1,000, 2,000 hours playing the piano, now you're an intermediate at least, if not going more advanced, right? So maybe I will go for something like that in the future. It's kind of in the back of my mind, but at the same time, it's very intimidating. And just the regular 1cc is kind of intimidating enough. So if anyone's got anything to say about that in the comments, or maybe that psychological process, or anyone who's more experienced and what they think about those type of things, I'd be interested in what you say in the comments. One last little piece of wisdom, maybe, about playing this type of game that I would maybe throw out there. I think psychologically, as you improve at this type of game, let's assume, you're practicing, you're improving. Well, you're mentally, psychologically, where you view yourself as a player always kind of lags behind a bit from where your skill level is actually at. For example, as I just got that 1cc right there, well, from the moment before I got the 1cc to the moment after I got the 1cc, I'm still the same player. I've still got the exact same skill level. But now, psychologically, I'm like, okay, well, I am at this level of play now. I've achieved a 1cc. I'm at that level of play. If I booted up and did another run right now, I'd be less nervous because I'm more comfortable in my skill level and the level that I'm at. If I have like a good run into the final stage, I'm not going to be too nervous or anything, right? Similarly, you can imagine, let's say I was going for the aura loop. Let's say that it's your first time ever in the aura loop. You're going to be very nervous. But let's say it's your 10th time in the aura loop. Well, by that point, you're going to be probably very, very secure. Like, you're at that level of play. You've adjusted that you're at that level of play mentally. That's definitely an important step. Just kind of consistently like readjusting your mentality back up as your skill level improves to the level of play that you're at and becoming more and more comfortable with higher level play and higher level runs. That's definitely a process that you have to go through. So yeah, that's the last thing I would say. Thanks very much for watching.